We're live.
Awesome. What's up, guys? Shawn Bowen, Full Circle Investment Group and wholesalingoutofthebox.com. We're here again with another lunchtime live, and we're continuing our talk on creative financing and buying deals. Let me turn this off. Get all this stuff turned off back here. All right, here we go. I think we're good. So creative financing, and today specifically we're talking to subject to the existing mortgage. We had a really good call with a young lady named Carolyn and her group where we specifically talked about this. But yeah, we're going to get in here and talk about subject to the existing mortgage and how you can use that on a bridge loan to do a rehab, and then how you can do that on a buy and hold so that you can make it a rental, or maybe even if you wanted to rewrap it and do owner finance on the backside. So that's like a rent to own to either landlord on the back end or an owner occupant on the back end of it. So guys, if you're coming in and joining us, please click the link. It should be above where you came in and you saw StreamYard. So click there. If not, Ashley will put it in the comments here for you. You can click on it there and join us. If you got questions while we're doing this live, we're usually here for about 30 minutes. So ask us, ask away, ask anything, right? And we'll try to bring you on live. I love to interact with people direct, and being on this channel and this broadcast for you guys is hopefully helping. So please let us know where you're coming in from, where you're hearing us from. I think we should be streaming in our Facebook groups, our YouTube channel, and then of course, Wholesaling Out of the Box will be on the podcast as well. So thanks for hanging out and watching and listening. And as always, if you need anything, feel free to check us out at wholesalingoutofthebox.com and leave us a message there and try to get with you and help you the best we can. So let's get into it. Subject to the existing mortgage, and what does it mean? So you're talking about taking over an existing mortgage that's on a home where the seller is going to stay in play. That means they do stay on the mortgage, but the ownership of the home and the deed transfers to you, either in your personal or your business name, whatever your preference is, right? So then it's your responsibility to make that payment. Obviously, whatever the dates are, whatever the agreement amount is, and then paying that forward now either to its full term, meaning how many years is left on it, or maybe it's going to be in a bridge loan fashion where you're going to make monthly payments for a few months, use it as a loan for the acquisition side of the property, and then bring in rehab costs on the second lien position, and then turn around and resell that property retail, either in a 30 or a 3 month, 6 month, or 12-month scenario, to where you're going to close out the first lien position of that loan, turn around and pay yourself back on the rehab loan, and of course, retail it and make profit. So that's a pretty creative one. Works pretty well. And then what if you wanted to hold it to make it a rental, which is just taking over the loan and allowing that to stay in play, to putting a tenant inside of it and playing landlord to that property. And then the other one is the owner finance. What if you can take over this existing loan, and let's say it's a $500 a month payment, and you can rent to own it back out for, let's say, $700. Okay. So you now have that delta in between. The taxes and insurance are the responsibility already of the existing mortgage. So insurance is now responsible for that person. They have their own insurance policy in play. And now you're playing as banker in that second lien position for the amount that you agree to sell it. So checking in here and see who we got on live with us. Looks like we got 5 or 6 people watching. Guys, let us know where you're coming in from. Brody's from the car. Cool. Good stuff. We've got what's up, but can't see who that is. So guys, again, if you go on to StreamYard and you join, it allows us to see where you're coming in from. I think that's just for the Facebook thing algorithm. But yeah, if you're here watching, please let us know if any of this is helpful. Any of this information that we're here every Tuesday, every Thursday, doing these lunchtime lives from 12 to 12 or 12:30 to 1. So hopefully some quick information. And then of course we do have the podcast where you can join us over there and listen to the replays of some of these. Then, of course, we have interviews with other things we've done, our team, people that we're doing business with. So hopefully this is some really good information for you guys, right? Trying to reach more people and do business with more people. So this is one of that way of doing it. So getting back into this, subject to the existing mortgage is exactly what this discussion is today and how creative it is. So let's kind of keep going a little bit deeper into that and what you're looking for when you're trying to talk to these people about it. The most common thing I need is a mortgage statement, right? So I need to know, hey, Rachel, how are you? Thanks for joining us. I need to know where that's coming from. What is the mortgage? What is the amount that's owed? What is the interest rate? And what are the terms left on that amount of time, meaning the amortization that goes through it, and how much time is left on the note? So is it way beginning of its note? Is it through the middle portion of it? Or is it on the far back end of it to where, if you're familiar with amortization, highest is the interest on the front end of the note, and then you get halfway through it, it starts paying just towards principal, and obviously down towards the bottom is all principal, and there's hardly any interest left on it. So those are the ones I like to get a hold of, where they've paid in most of the interest on the front end of it. It's towards the back end of the note. You can see all that by having a mortgage statement. So we usually ask the seller just a screen cap or even a picture on their phone, and sending it to us so that we can get familiar with what and if we can take over. Some of the ones that we've taken over that we own currently, these were interest rates of 4, 5, and 6%. They've been performing of their 30-year life. They've performed probably in 10 to 15 years. And the next question I get a lot of people asking is well, who would do this? Why would they do this? Right. And this is something like it would never happen. And it's not true. There's a lot of individuals that just want to get out of what's owed. And can you build a position around that actually helps both parties, right? For them as the seller and you as the end buyer / owner, twofold, right? They get somebody to take care of their payment. You have the ability to bring in some money to close it. Maybe they want some money up front. Maybe they want some money over time. This depends on what you guys negotiate. But the most important part is getting a copy of that mortgage statement and really knowing what's going on. Also confirming that there's not a second lien position in play. We've seen a few of those lately where there was a first for 50 grand and maybe a second for 14,000, 15,000. It was like a small loan, maybe from the redevelopment housing authority locally. So that's something that comes across, right? So you want to be very careful with that as well. Let's see who else we have in here. And we got a few people watching. Guys, I try to slow this down. I talk so fast. It's so much information to try to get out to you at one time. So try to slow it down as best as possible. But again, we're talking to subject to, and then let's go back into what I was talking about with the bridge loan.
Yeah, real quick, Shawn, we actually have someone on the chat or in the video group.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Who we got? Tom? Mm-hmm. Tom, what's up? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Mom, awesome. Can you hear me?
Yep, got you, man. What's happening?
Oh, just at my other job, listening to you.
Lunchtime live, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So what question did you have?
I didn't have one. I was just trying to come in through this, the other thing. I came in through Facebook, but it didn't show me, so I was just trying to come in through the other way, but it put me in through the chat, I guess.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. That's the first time I've gone in through that stream live.
All good. So, yeah, we're here. We got you here and listening. So if you need anything, just write us over in the chat.
All right.
All right, man. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. So we've got a question over here. So can you touch on the position of loans quick? I can't see who that person is writing that, but if you can define that question a little bit more. So can we touch on positions of loans quick? I'm not sure what that means. Does the lender bank have to?
Sorry. I think what that question is asking is like maybe what is a position and who is normally in like first position versus second position. And
Oh,
kind of
okay. Yeah, good call. All right. And then the next one we have is, does the lender bank have to approve for a subject to deal? And the answer to that one is no. So there's what's called the due on sale clause. So in your mortgages, and most all mortgages say that this mortgage cannot transfer without the bank's knowledge, right? You will be notifying the bank that you're pushing it either to an LLC and or pushing it over for a lot of people call it, or I know what we've called it, is asset protection or maybe property management, right? So this property management company is going to take over this, and this is what they're doing, and this is the contact. So no, the banks don't need to be notified. And in this case, majority of the time, the banks don't care, right? Now, is that the 1% of yes that the bank could call it due? Most definitely. But again, the banks are not into the business of owning real estate. They're into owning notes and performing notes at that. So majority of the time, it only matters as long as the note is performing. So now, again, it goes back to yes, I'm not here to say that they can't call the loan due. And that could be a thing, but the majority of the stuff that we've dealt with and I've seen and worked with other people, that is not an issue at all. Not at all. And then can we touch on position of loans real quick? So when we talk about a position, meaning there's a first position lien, which is always the best one to be in if you're a lender. And then there's a second lien position, which is usually not a bad position, but position meaning like who gets paid first, who gets paid second, who gets paid third, and on down the line for what was liened against the property for either judgments, tax, if city wants to throw a code against it, and or a money lien position. So hopefully that was answering that question. I'm not sure who wrote it, but that was a good one. And thank you, because Ashley helps me.
Yeah. Well, and just to kind of elaborate on that as well, if, for example, you're selling a house traditionally, you typically have to meet that requirement. There was an echo. You have to meet that requirement. So if there are 4 liens against the property in first through fourth position, you have to be able to cover all of those debts.
Correct.
All of those liens. But if, for example, you know that you're not going to be able to cover the cost of the house or of all of the liens, then the people who are in the lower lien positions, like third, fourth, fifth, they're the ones more likely to get kind of screwed over on their investment.
Correct.
The person in the first lien position is going to be the one that gets all of their money back.
Correct.
It's not like a percentage thing where it's, you owe the mortgage company 100, but you owe Shawn 50. So Shawn gets a third of the payoff. No, it's 100, and then whatever is left, Shawn will get.
That's right. So good call there. And the reason we can speak to that is that we've dealt with a lot of different files where we're going to close on the loan or close on the property, and maybe there's a judgment against somebody, or there's some kind of lien against another person that's involved in a probate case. That doesn't get negotiated anything but the first position down to the second to the third to the fourth. And like Ashley was saying, this turns into whatever position you're in. Anything past the first is usually the bad spot. So then we're talking loan to value. We're talking to what amount of money is lent, and then what's the value of the asset in order to turn around and say, yes, I'm in a good lien position. Behind that usually comes a higher interest rate with a lower lien position or a farther behind lien position. But again, if you're not over leveraged, usually the first, second is usually about as high as it gets. Behind that is going to be stuff like credit cards and judgments and court stuff that's going to be attached to the property. So hopefully whoever wrote that, I can't see it, but is explaining the position of loans and what they are and why. And then, of course, answering the lender and the bank to approve the subject to deal. Again, it's more important to the way that we do this. It's more important to have the paperwork in play to notify. And guys, when I say this, don't take it for granted. Like, there's a lot of paperwork involved here, where subject to the existing mortgage is notifying the bank, allowing you as the person to take over the loan, have the ability to talk to the bank and say that in this case, Full Circle Investment Group, and all of its employees have the right to speak to the lender on behalf of this person. So there is a lot of paperwork that goes into this, and I do not suggest that you do this if you're brand new. Get with somebody that knows what they're doing. Definitely get with an attorney to get behind this and the knowledge that comes with it. There's a lot of paperwork involved. This is not a sit down at a table in somebody's house and just say, cool, we're going to take over your loan and I'm going to write these few pieces of paper and everything's good to go. That is not the way to do this. It's very loosey-goosey and it will get you in trouble. So if you're interested locally, get with us. I'd love to talk with you and show you what we do and introduce you to the attorney that we work with that does it. But they're very lucrative and it's a very good way of helping a seller get out of an asset, or you as a buyer to get into an asset where you're not having to bring so much down to the table. Of course, again, back to negotiations, right? What does the seller want? Does the seller just want to walk away? Does the seller want to put some money in their pocket? A lot of that is during that talk. So those are some good questions. Good stuff. Again, guys, if you're coming in, you're watching us, or the replay, if you're live, let us know where you're coming from and seeing this at. Love to see who we're reaching out and watching the show. Love that. Like to try to connect with you guys more. So it looks like Mechanicsville up in from Rachel. And of course, Roy. All right, Mr. Roy's here. And then we got a few more people that are out here watching. So that would probably sum up the most of it, guys. And just to recap, subject to the existing mortgage, taking over somebody's mortgage where they stay in play. They do stay on the mortgage. You are taking over the position of making those payments. And again, this is taking over payments, committing to this payment. This is not a newbie strategy, right? This is if you don't understand this, please get with somebody local to your market, local that has done it, to an attorney. This is a very serious thing, right? You're trying to help somebody get out of a position in order to help them, right? Versus I've seen some of these go bad where, hey, they got to make their payment or they owe something else. They got to pay for a monthly payment and it's not on their name. And they just kind of push it on the back burner and say, well, it's not my fault. That's not what you committed to. That's not what you said you were going to do. So that's just not good business, right? So be sure that you're taking on a debt that you can take on and make the payment. That's the name of the business, right? You are helping them. Do what you say you're going to do and commit to it. So we've got a few of these that we currently own. We've got a few that we've structured. And we don't really wholesale too many of these off. We keep these in the house. They add to our portfolio. And then, of course, they add to the assets. So it's a good model, guys. And it's a really good technique in order to use, again, back to the bridge loan part. You could use this to take down a property, transfer it, do the closing, and use an example, say it's $145,000, and then bring in a second lien position, which is the rehab money, and say it's 50 grand, and then sell the home on the back end for, say, 250. So it allows you to pay off the first, pay off the second, and then there's that profit at the end, which is super creative. And you don't have to bring the first lien position, which is the purchase price, to the table. And then you make that monthly payment. So, say it's $1,000 for 3 or 4 months. You pay $4,000 out. That's part of your cost. And then now you sell the home, pay off the second, pay off the first, pay off the second. And now there's your profit. So very creative in that way too. But back over to the holding it for long-term, put a renter into it. You didn't have to bring the money for such a big purchase price on the front end, and it just lets the note keep performing. So really, really creative way. And it's allowed us as our company to be pretty creative in doing it and taking down some deals and building a portfolio. Just a really good strategy.
Yeah.
So,
and Shawn, maybe if you could explain a little bit, because we just actually finished one back in the beginning of May, I believe. It finally sold. And that was took it over in January. Everything finished by the beginning or end of May, somewhere in that month. So it was a 5-month process. But maybe talk about the negotiations specific to that deal, like the seller we were paying out at the end for certain things and what that looked like and how you can negotiate, because this is such a creative way to do the deal. You're not stuck in like the traditional mortgage sort of thing.
Yeah. So this was a deal where it was brought to us by an agent. They wanted to list the property, but because of what was owed against it and the amount of work that needed to be done to it, it didn't work to go the traditional route. Not only that, but it didn't work to sell it, actually get your traditional mortgage or your FHA. Like, it didn't work to go that direction. So what we told the seller is let's work this out in this fashion to where we'll take over the note. It'll transfer into our name. And I think the way we did this was like, you make one payment while we're pushing all this together. I think she had some tenants or some family members that were in it. And then eventually they moved out of it. She made that payment. And then we said we would reimburse her on the back end when we sold it. So she'd be out money a little bit on the front, but then she would get it back at the end of the deal. That was perfect for her. Following that, we brought in a partner that came in and they did the rehab on it and got through the deal, made that monthly payment. I think the total investment was around $45,000, 50 grand at most, and then turn around and sold the deal. Missed it by a little bit on appraisal, but got into it with a little bit over in budget and a little bit on appraisal, but still walked away with everybody making some money. But that creativity there was so that the seller at the same time was able to go and get another property while this was happening. And then it closed out her loan. She didn't go negative. She didn't get any dings on her credit, and was actually able to completely be done with the home in amount of time that we wanted. We stayed close to it. It didn't work out just as quite as we wanted to, but we did do what we were going to do. We finished it out. We got it done. She was able to get out of her loan, able to buy another home. She was actually out of state. She never came back in town. So all this was done in a virtual setting. There was pictures taken. All the paperwork was done remotely. So all of this was very, very organized, and it worked out on both ends. At both parties, I think everybody was happy at the end of this. Everybody made a little bit of money, and the seller and the agent were both, pretty pumped for the fact that they made a little bit of money on the agent side. We made a relationship with that agent to bring us more deals, and the seller was able to get out of their home at not a deficit, right? And then the money that we said we could pay her back, ultimately she actually made a little bit more money on the back end of it, because I think between taxes and insurance, they actually paid back a little bit more, but that's a bonus, right? So at the end of the day, everybody did what they said they were going to do. The deal got done, made money, and the creativity part of it was pretty interesting, and it worked out really well. So that was one that we've done recently that we can speak to. And if you guys love to get on privately and talk a little more about it, love to, talk with you and see what we can do to work with you on stuff like that. So guys, towards the end here, right at our 12:30 to 1 o'clock window, try to keep these things short and sweet. Anybody that's watching the replay, thank you so much for hanging out this long. And hopefully if this is helpful, you'll leave a comment wherever you're watching this live at. Anybody that's been here this long, thank you so much for hanging out, interacting, and giving us some questions over there and some feedback. But subject to the existing mortgage, it's an awesome strategy. It's a really good one to allow you to build a portfolio and or do creative financing in a fix and flip scenario. Even maybe a little bit more creative to owner finance from what they owe to maybe what they want over amount of time. So as always, guys, if there's anything you need from us, please feel free to reach out to us. You can always contact us at wholesalingoutofthebox.com. Full Circle Investment Group is always available as well. Follow us over there on our podcast, and then check us out on our YouTube channel, which is Wholesaling Out of the Box. So we're building all this stuff up to work with you guys and try to do business with you. Really, really looking forward to meeting some people and getting back to the in-person and, going live with you guys, not just here, but, meeting you out in the open again. So we're starting to get rolling back that way. So looking forward to it. But guys, always, thanks again for your time. Thank you for leaving the comments, and look forward to working with you soon. Thanks a lot.